cold. So cold. I have no other feeling, apart from the chill seeping through me and a gnawing hunger. Awareness of my surroundings grow. The darkness around me is due to the stone tomb I am enclosed within. The cold air seeps through the crack in the slab directly above my head and finds its way through my ragged, stained shirt. Through the crack above, water droplets fall onto my face, some dampness from the air beyond finding its way through. Opening my mouth wide, I want to cry out, to wail, but I cannot find my voice. Instead, I writhe and twist in my torment. The tips of my fingers are bloodied digits, the nails scraping the stone all around me. Somehow, beyond my perception, the lid of my tomb falls away, crashing down to the floor beside where I lie. My fingers curl around the edge of the stone sarcophagus, and I raise myself out. On the stone floor, the lid has cracked in two by my bare feet. How did I end up here? I have no memory, no recollection of how I came to be within this crypt. Around me, a mist sits, an ethereal atmosphere that glows unnaturally. Other tombs are around, undisturbed, yet I am here. How can that be? I look down at my gaunt frame, covered in tattered, filthy clothing. The bottom of my shirt is stained blood red, a large patch surrounding a slit in the fabric. I am cold and famished, but I feel no pain. I move lightly across the stone, exploring this place of death. An inkling of recognition strikes me. I know this place. It is my family crypt. My ancestors are buried here. It sits below the chapel of our manor. Why am I here? With sudden realization, the truth strikes me. This is my own final resting place, in the very sarcophagus built to house my mortal remains. My name, Thomas Madden, sits etched in stone at the head of the tomb. I do not recall my demise, but I know I was a person of some repute, important, the lord of the manor. That was it. And I have now awoken in my family tomb. For what purpose? Am I doomed to haunt these halls for eternity? Is this punishment for the deeds of my life? No specific sins, no evil actions present themselves to me, but perhaps this is part of my torment. To remain ignorant as I prowl the places I spent my life, searching for answers, yearning for forgiveness. Ahead, steps lead upwards. At the top, a wooden door is closed, and yet I move through it. Movement takes no effort, but my surroundings are blurry, as though they have no substance, and I seem to be passing through a mist that sits like a carpet on the ground. The chapel is dark. No light illuminates the stained glass as I enter the transept. I look across the deserted aisles and over to the altar, which still displays a golden cross. I feel nothing. Passing down the center of the aisle, I make my way towards the exit, unsure of whether I would be allowed to leave. I know that my existence is bound to this place, and just beyond the chapel sits my home. I feel compelled to return to it. Maybe I will find answers within its wood-paneled walls. As I leave the church, a fog envelops me. It is night, but I cannot see the stars or the moon, and not a breath of wind stirs, just the glowing cloud that surrounds me. Yet I seem to pass through it, the cold air parting as I approach. Only a short distance away are the great doors that mark the entrance to my halls. To my left, I see the dark outline of the lake situated in the approaches to the estate, but soon after the fog hides it from view. Almost before my awareness strikes, I find myself in the hallway. I stand in the space where doorways lead to the two wings of the house and a grand staircase to the upper rooms. Perhaps it is a habit left over from my life, but I feel a desire to retire to my quarters. Who am I to argue with my fate? Drifting up the stairs, I know the way despite my fractured memory. Almost as if I am following a command, I find my quarters. Inside, I find my bed still in place, the wooden posts rising up into the dark ceiling. The room feels different, however. No bedclothes sit on the bare mattress, and no curtains hang from the windows to hide the white fog from the outside night. As I lay my head down upon the bare mattress, the world spins out of view, melting around into nothingness, and my awareness vanishes. When it returns, I am still in my room, but I am standing, looking outside through the long window. It is daylight, but the fog remains. The chapel looms through the dense air, a ghostly apparition ahead. My bones feel frozen, and my hunger pervades my every action. I still wear the clothes I died in, torn fabric, no protection from the cold. A memory stirs of warm coats, thick trousers, and knee-length boots that I kept in my armoire. It was located in the corner of my room, but now it is nowhere to be seen. I wonder if, as I roam through this purgatory, whether the absence of the possessions I had in life are part of the torture, and whether, even if my clothing were present, they would simply fall from me, unable to find purchase on my otherworldly frame. Fragments of memory return of this home, a manor full of furniture, richly decorated with fixtures and fittings, with artwork hanging from every wall. I wander through the corridors, bare and empty, my feet making no sound on the wooden flooring. I recall many servants, going about their business, all treating me with respect and deference. All the possessions, the trinkets I thought so essential in my life, gone, vanished, no longer important in this realm beyond existence. I walk through the library, the shelves devoid of books, and then through the ballroom, a hollow space in the corner where my old piano stood. Venturing into the kitchens, aware of my hunger, they too no longer hold the pots and pans, the crockery, the cutlery. I recall the smell of herbs drifting through this part of the house, as game fowl cooked along with the rich meats I used to indulge in. Now there is nothing. In the corner of the room, my eye is drawn to a thin black shape on the floor in the corner, the rotten remains of a carrot. For a moment, I am tempted to consume it, to feed my ravishment, until I tell myself that would be foolish. Nothing earthly could sustain me any longer. I drift back upstairs and pass a bedroom that feels familiar to me. I notice, as I pass through the doorway, this room too is bare except for a bed and an old mirror near the window. What is this room? Recollection returns. It belonged to my wife during our courtship. These were her quarters before our marriage in the chapel. Am I being tormented by this memory? Was I a faithless husband, or a dominating, abusive partner to my beloved? Am I being punished for this? If I was this person, I had no recall. My only thoughts were those of love and compassion towards my wife. What was her name? Charlotte. That was it. My wife's name was Charlotte, and she was beautiful. I find that I want to cry at such a heavenly memory. It feels more emotion than a visual image, and yet tears will not come. They will no longer flow down this face. My final act is to stand near the mirror. It is faded and full of grime, but still offers a reflection through its darkened glass, except it doesn't. I place myself next to the mirror, and it no longer shows the emaciated frame of the former lord of this manor. I am no longer of this world. I am a ghost, haunting this house for the rest of eternity. My awakening into a new reality of horror and torment. As I continue my contemplations, I hear voices, distant, just mutterings. I move over to the window to see the ragged mist drifting through the grounds, flowing over the lake at the front of the house. As I watch, two figures come into view. One is my wife. She wears a black mourning dress, and even from this window on the upper floor, I see she is distressed. She is with another man, whom I recognize. He resembles me in life. He is a little taller, more lithe, but his face mirrors my own. He is my younger brother, Edward. He is comforting Charlotte. Some feeling stirs within me. A dark feeling, as though this is important, though I know not why. I watch as they enter the chapel, and I wonder whether they go to pray at the altar to mourn my passing. I stand, fixated, gazing through the window as they go into the church, Edward's arm linked through Charlotte's as she dabs her eyes with a handkerchief. A few minutes later, or was it hours? It is hard for me to discern the passage of time. They emerge and look to the house. I can hear them speak as they walk towards the lake. "I can't believe he is gone, Edward," states Charlotte. "Neither can I," he replies. "He was a good man, my brother Thomas, maybe the best of us." "He was. If only we found him. If only I can look upon him one last time," she said. She looks up at the window where I stand, and her eyes open in shock. She cannot see me. I want her to remember me in life, not this terrifying apparition. I move away from the window. Below, I can hear her sobs. "But I saw him, Edward. I saw him." Edward consoles her. "It is just your imagination, darling." Darling, what was this? I risk another glance through the window, keeping to the shadows, and I see Edward embracing my wife as she rests her head on his chest, her tears flowing freely. "But I saw him," she repeated. "Maybe he is still." "No," said Edward. "The constable said that the amount of blood found near the lake meant he could not possibly have survived." "Can we stay here, Edward?" she asks. "Just one last time before the place is sold. I have so many happy memories here." "But darling, there is nothing here for us any longer." "Just one last time, Edward. Please." "Very well. Let us return to town to pick up some supplies. We shall return later and spend one last night here. But after that, we need to move on from our grief. Need to put this whole affair behind us. Do I have your promise?" "I promise, Edward, I promise," she says. I watch as they disappear back into the fog near the lake. The lake. Something about the lake. That was where I died. Maybe that place would hold the answers I seek. I leave the house, descending into the fog. Twilight falls upon me, the sky darkening as I move through the doorway and into the evening. Cold, starved, I approach the lake slowly. I feel the grass upon my feet, damp and slimy with the mist. As I stand at the edge of the lake, where the reeds meet the black water, a seed of a memory stirs, but remains beyond my grasp. The water looks tempting to me, the gurgling a comfort. I surmise that if I fell here, to return to the place of my death offers me some solace. Without another thought, I plunge myself into the lake as the dusk turns to night. My own coldness seems to merge with the water as it envelops me. I open my mouth and welcome the coolness both outside and within. Time seems to halt as I float amongst the green weeds, with dappled moonlight filtering through the surface. It acts as a tonic to my recollection, as though the place of my demise reactivates my history. I see Edward's face, flushed red, admitting his debts have overwhelmed him. He is begging for my money to bail him out yet again. I refuse, stating he must learn from his mistakes. We are walking at night by the lake. I see a flash of silver before the dagger penetrates my midriff. I fall to the ground by the lake's edge, my blood seeping through my shirt and into the water. As I lie wounded, I listen to Edward as he justifies his action. He is the heir to the estate, but he also reveals that he covets Charlotte. He loves her, he says, though she knows it not. "It wasn't fair," he says. "My life should be his." Then, he lifts me over his shoulder. The pain is excruciating. He takes me into the chapel, down into the crypt, and places me in it, rolling over the stone slab above my head. I cry out, but I feel the weakness overtake me, and I lose consciousness. I return to the present with thoughts of fury. This is why I have been brought back. I need to take my revenge on my feckless and murderous brother. I emerge at the far end of the pond, the water dripping from my pale frame. As I do, I see the lanterns of Edward and Charlotte returning to the manor. The moon reflects from my pale aspect as I climb from the water. Charlotte spots me and screams, pointing my way. Edward freezes, holding his lantern up high, trying to convince himself that I didn't exist. I have no need to be afraid. Not anymore. He cannot harm what is already dead. I clamber towards him, hatred emanating from me with every step I take. Charlotte is frozen to the spot, but I see Edward retrieve the dagger from his belt, but he's still refusing to believe his eyes. "I killed you," he declares. "I killed you. You cannot be here." But I am, and I fix him with a baleful stare. He holds the knife ahead of him protectively, but his hand is shaking. He does not trust his eyes, his reality being shattered before him. I embrace him, finding strength in my ire, crushing him up against my body. Edward's eyes are wide, but then full of pain. I release and then push him away. He falls to the floor, his own dagger embedded in the center of his chest. Before he dies, he holds his hand up to me, his eyes pleading. Then they close forever with a gasp. My revenge fulfilled, I wonder what will become of me. Am I still destined to haunt this place? Destined to walk the earth in my state of living death? Charlotte approaches me, her dress sweeping the grass, and she avoids the body of my brother. "You're alive," she states, and holds out a tentative hand. Am I? I reach out my hand and touch hers. It feels warm and soft. "Thomas," she says. I collapse into her arms, and she then lowers me to the ground. She sits beside me, and I place my head in her lap. "We thought you were dead," she said. "But it was Edward all along. He inherited the house and sold all your possessions, and he was about to sell the house too. You disappeared nearly a month ago. How did you survive?" I had not the strength to reply, but a realization struck me. In my tomb, water dripped onto my face through the stone as my injury healed. My hunger lay in genuine starvation, and in such a state, I had witnessed hallucinations, my fractured mind refusing me my reflection and placing a haze over my senses. The water in the lake provided some vitality back to my broken body, and my refreshed mind brought back the memory. I am no ghost, and I am back with my beloved, but as I look upon the body of Edward, I wonder whether he would return to haunt us, a ghost in my stead. His dark deeds set to place a curse on my family. For eternity,